Imagine you have a 5-pointer story assigned to you in a sprint and you are not able to proceed forward because of some external dependencies. You have to call some API calls and that API call is not written properly, and it's not even your fault and not even in your team's purview, but you know that come what may so, your ticket will not be allowed to push forward into the next sprint. Absolutely no spillovers. Does this happen to you? Let me know in the comments. Now, taking a step back, guys, there are a bunch of different problems that we face when we work with our clients. And in this video, I want to highlight 3 such problems and also what are the potential solutions to these problems. And let's start with the first scenario, which we already talked through. There are no spillovers. And this has nothing to do with your client manager or anybody individual at an individual capacity. This has more to do with the organizational ethos itself. And not even organization, it could be an individual department level or a business unit level philosophy. And this does happen. Like you might be seeing for the same client, if you are working for, let's imagine, I'm just randomly throwing out names here. If you are working for American Express as your client and your team is always slogging and the other team is having a very comfortable entire day and night. And this could be because the BU that you are working with, the business unit, that might be a little screwed up. And why would this happen? 3 to 4 reasons. One of the primary things could be that what you are working on is a very sensitive topic. For example, you might be working on that payment gateways within the American Express client. If anything wrong happens within these payment gateway transactions or the OTPs that you receive, then you see that almost all the customers are immediately impacted. On the other end of the spectrum, if another team is working on a feature which is not so important, they might be relatively okay to push some of the 5-pointer stories into the next sprint. The spillovers are okay over there, and here it might be a problem and nothing to blame. It's just the nature of the business unit. Now, the second thing could be this particular business unit could be going through a lot of trouble. We all know that some of the BUs are more impacted than the others because some of the business units are cost centers. They are not generating any revenue per se, but they are only just cost centers. For example, if you are working with the HR team, if you are working with the finance team, if you are working with any internal team within the organization, they are traditionally considered to be the cost centers of the organization because they are not bringing in revenues into the company. They are only there to help the organizations perform better. In that scenario, if something goes wrong, these are the first ones to be impacted. So there is always a lot more pressure when compared to working with a revenue-driven team. The third thing could be the leader of that particular business unit might be having some kind of competitive pressures. They might be pushing for a promotion. They might be pushing for something else that God knows and you don't know. You might be in this loop without realizing why you are pushed so much. You might be in these situations. Now, taking again a step back, the second reason why you might end up in these kind of client situations is because of the manager themselves, client manager. Imagine this situation, right? You go to bed at midnight and you keep hearing these pings on the Teams, on Skype, whatever it is, from your client manager every single day at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. They are just time insensitive. Most of the Americans work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. But when it comes to their counterparts in India, they believe that they should be working for 24 hours a day. Why? They believe that probably India is a third world country and they have to work so hard so that they can come out of the slavery. I have absolutely no understanding why that's the mindset, but they work from 9 to 5, but they believe the Indian counterparts should work as long as possible. And these pings become common. You can't even avoid them because we have already culturally gotten them used to saying that, hey, we are always available for you. The reasons why these client managers could become time insensitive is, number one, is their attitude towards the Indian employee base. They might say that, hey, we are paying these guys. By the way, nobody is paying from their pocket. It's the company which is paying. We are paying. I am paying to these guys, so they need to be available 24/7. That's one of the primary reasons why you see such a harsh behavior from the client side. The second reason is much more to do with the expertise of these individual clients. The client might not know a lot of details, but they are saying we have to complete this. So they don't even understand what's going wrong. So they just keep pushing you, and if push comes to shove, they'll say this particular individual, the contractor, has not completed the work. So they will easily throw you under the bus. What do you do under these scenarios? You just take the stress and you continue to move forward. This happens a lot if the client manager is not having that expertise. On the other end, if the client manager has that expertise, sometimes they wouldn't be willing for you to experiment, innovate, or at least try another thing. They might believe that, hey, we know every single thing with respect to the organization, so if something goes wrong, again, you are not doing a good job. Either end of the spectrum is actually bad. You need somebody who is supporting you. If things don't go as planned, they just have to support. They just have a helping hand and say, let's solve this together. If that's not the attitude, the problem will always persist. And the third one, as I mentioned, is the insensitivity towards time. You just can't avoid that. And the third reason why working with clients is difficult is also our own mindset. The first aspect with respect to the mindset is we have never been trained to think about communication as an important tool. We have always been trained that, hey, if you are technically solid, you get a job. You go into the unofficial training hub of India, Amirpet in Hyderabad. You learn a tool and then you try to get into the job. But who is teaching you what is the basic communication etiquette? Nobody. So if you have an issue, you try to sit down and solve it for yourself, but you wouldn't even dare to communicate with the client. If the client has an answer, the client might be able to help you out, right? So these are some of the common challenges that you would face. Proactive communication has never been taught in our schools. That's one of the problems with our education system, definitely. The second one is overconfidence in ourselves. We say that we have solved these problems before, so I can solve this problem again. I don't need enough time. Yes, I don't need enough time. I can solve this quickly. This overconfidence in ourselves could also be one of the reasons why we are stressed towards the end of every sprint, but not at the start. At the start, we are taking it easy. I can finish it off in a day. I can finish it off in half a day. But we are always under the pressure from our managers as well. Not the client managers, but our own managers. The third reason is procrastination. We are absolutely happy to procrastinate work till the last minute. If you have an engineering exam on Monday morning, when would you start reading? At least I used to do it on Sunday night only, because that would help me push through my exam. That's it. And that's a common theme that I have noticed across at least my peers, that procrastination typically doesn't work if the problem that you are solving is a tough problem and you don't even know if it's a tough problem versus not. And across all these problems that we have talked through, the only problem that we can realistically control is our own mindset. Giving priority to the communication, making sure that we have enough time and we don't procrastinate. But there is one more thing that we can do with our clients, which is aligning on the expectations. Making sure that we communicate to them, hey, I'm not going to work beyond 11 p.m., whatever it is. You usually plan to do that, but you will never end up doing that, right? So give that chance to yourself and say to the client that, hey, I'm working from 11 a.m. in the morning till 11 p.m. at night. So you will see me offline immediately from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. completely. If they are rational people, they would agree. If they are not rational, then it's a good time for you to leave that job. So set the expectations and continue to move forward. Do let me know what are some of the other issues that you face with your clients and also how you solve them. These are, again guys, very realistic scenarios that I keep hearing and that I have experienced personally. Please do take it in the positive spirit so that you don't end up in these situations. And even if you end up, understand that these are very common across the industry. You are not the only one struggling. So just take a chill pill. See you again in the next one. Bye bye.